I hope that you can be present. You can be giving attention to yourself, and in doing so, perhaps tap into this new way of life. So let's just become present, and just allow ourselves to have the sense of this ability to be quiet. Feel your breath inside your body and sense the rhythm of this breath. Become aware of how this rhythm is not just the rhythm that gives life to your physical body, but in Hindi, in Sanskrit, this word pran means breath, but pran also means life, the living energy that we all are, that we reside at the center of the forehead. And when I become aware of this rhythm of the physical body, it also has a rhythm that is in unison with the rhythm of nature, the elements, and life itself. And you realize that there is no separation. When you realize that you really are this life, this living energy, then there is no separation between you and that which is outside of you. And in this realization, you and that which is outside of you is in harmony. And this brings a great calmness, a great peace. Thank you. Thank you for being present. Now, at this time when everything we ever knew has been turned upside down, right? In the beginning of the year, in January, people were making New Year's resolutions. People were making plans for their lives. And now, today, can you make a plan for your life? We've been not been able to get together for our morning meditations here since, well, in a sense, properly for a couple of years, but the small group that used to meet in these private houses that we have here, even that has stopped since the end of March. And now we're starting to go outside at a community hall. And so, how long should we book for? And we say we just we cannot say, let's book the hall for 1 month, let's book the hall for 2 months. We just can't. So even to the village hall people, we have to say, let's just see for the foreseeable future, we can do something. If you can allow us to just book us in for a few weeks, and we'll take it from there. So it seems that every day people are glued to the television to see what the next rule the government's going to come out with, right? And so life has become so unpredictable. And so this has created a lot of uncertainty. What is the new way of being that, in a sense, it's not new? You know, what is the definition of new? Newness doesn't mean a creative way. Newness doesn't mean that it's never been done before. But I suppose newness simply means something that I haven't done before. And all of us, all of the situations and circumstances that we're facing ourselves with these days, this day and age, none of us have been part of any of that before. And so a new way of being. A few things that came to my mind, especially when I think about unpredictability of life. Life has always been unpredictable, but why is it that it wasn't such an issue? The reason why it wasn't such an issue is because the pace of life was still quite slow. The pace of life had a rhythm. It had a routine. It had some sort of discipline. But now the pace of life has become so fast that the fact that everything is changing, but the speed, because of the speed, we are not able, my sense is that because of the speed of life, we're not able to stay in that place where we can gather energy ourselves, where we can have clarity of some sort by just being so slow, being so patient, that as life moves on, as things change, it's okay. There are intervals that we find ourselves in. But at this moment in time, the pace of change is so fast that we don't seem to have the time to process what's gone on. And this is something, has been part of my experience, in that when you do a lot, when a lot happens, then you don't have time to process what happens. And when you don't have time to process, then you also compromise your learnings in that situation. And so we, in a sense, we've known, through the issues of the environment, through political issues, religion issues, all of these things that have been going on in our worlds, we know that in a sense everything is really on quite a decline. But we just carried on. But now we've been given an opportunity. And I think of this really as a gift in which we have to assess ourselves to say, to what extent I'm ready for all eventualities. And whether those eventualities are in terms of my physical health, whether it's in terms of relationships, whether it's in terms of my financial condition, whether it's in terms of the world, whatever, to what extent I am prepared for whatever it is that might come out my way. In India, in the scriptures, there is this whole story about Krishna guiding Arjuna at every step, giving him spiritual lessons in such a way that Arjuna is prepared at every step as to what he's got to do next. Sometimes it becomes very overwhelming for him, the work that he has to do on himself, the processing of thinking that he has to do to see how to deal with situations of life. And he just wants to put his weapon down and say, okay, God, I don't want to do this anymore. I can't do the work anymore. And it says that Krishna says to Arjuna, hey Arjuna, even if you don't want to do the work, or you don't want to make the effort, Even nature and elements will make you make effort. And at this point in time, nature, elements, time, in fact, our own destiny is making us make the effort that we need to make. And so, what is this new way of being? What I was thinking about, even for my own self, I've lived in a retreat center, and so you would say a place of meditation and quiet and rest and reflection. Well, quite far from it. And I don't mean it in a bad way, but there was such a busyness of things. So much was going on, as Umang mentioned, 10,000 people throughout the year. And so we were constantly one event after another. And we were very enthusiastic. So we were happy to go along with the energy of that life was putting in front of us. And I could honestly probably say for my own self that whilst there was all of that going on, now I realize how much I too at that time needed to take stock of myself and my own energy, my own spiritual connection. Every day I have my disciplines and I was following a life of routine, but to really take stock and to allow time to build that energy inside myself, I probably didn't do it. And so, whether you have some sort of a spiritual some inclination and you've introduced something in your life, but now definitely the pace of life has to change for all of us. For me, the newness really is that my pace as in not just physical activity pace, but the pace is, can I slow down my thinking? Can I make my thinking more powerful? Can I make my thinking more meaningful? Can I make sure that every thought I have is a thought that is going to produce a result and an outcome? Or is it that I have thousands and thousands of thoughts? They say you have 60,000 thoughts in a day. So you might say, okay, you don't have 60,000 thoughts a day. But even if you have to achieve something, even when you have to do something, do you find yourself thinking so much about it that it's like you are constantly on the move inside your own head? But now my sense is that what we have to do is think less, think powerfully, think meaningfully. And, if you say, right, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do this, I think it's not possible to not do something. In order for us to grasp not doing something, you have to do it so that you realize you mustn't do it. So it's not about saying to yourself, I don't want to do this or I will not do this. It is about saying, this is what I will do. And it's really about developing a practice where I am able to spend as much time as I possibly can, or create a routine for myself so that I spend my time in silence. But you might say, well, you know about that. But the silence that I'm talking about is a silence in which my mind is free from distractions. My mind is free from distractions of situations. My mind is free from distractions of people. My mind is free from the use of the devices, whether it's the phones or the computers or whatever it might be. To what extent I can really be able to sit and be quiet, but not just quiet. I think we have to go a step further now. And that is that in this quietness, how aligned I am with what's happening around me. How much there is alignment. That means my energy is is in tune with what is happening and what is around me. And when I say in tune, it means that if there's negativity around me, it doesn't mean that I see the negativity and become affected by it, or I'm searching to find out what's happening around me. But actually, my silent mind, my quiet mind can become touched by what's going on. No, Daddy Janki used to say to me, but those of you who know her very well, she will say, let your mind be such that you don't need to constantly be thinking about what it is that you have to do next. But let your mind be such that your mind becomes informed. Your mind becomes conducive to receiving the signals of what is to come next. This is a very powerful thing, where your mind catches the signal of what is to happen next, but what it is that you have to do next. This is a very, very powerful thing. And for this, my life, my way of living, my way of life has to become such that in my life becomes a life free from greed. And I'm specifically referring to greed because greed is very deceptive. No, any negativity that you have, there is the opposite end of the spectrum of that negativity. Greed, the opposite end of the spectrum of greed is happiness. When there is greed, there will be desires. When there is greed, there is expectations. When there is greed, there is a thought that me first. What I need comes first. And my mind is constantly looking out there to get something. Whether it's from people, from situations, from circumstances. Not only that, with greed, I never come to a place of sense of satisfaction, a place of contentment, a place in which I feel, I have whatever I need. I have a roof over my head. I have enough to eat each day, and I have enough to pay my bills, and that's enough. It's a very, very, very simple aspect of life, but it's actually a very powerful thing, because when there is greed, we also become deceived. We become deceived by our own selves. We become deceived by our own desires and our own expectations. And so you might say, I don't have greed. Greed doesn't mean to just hoard. Greed doesn't just mean to go out and buy stuff that you don't need. In fact, I'd challenge you, if you went into your home, if you went around your whole house and you had a clear out, and you say, I was going to say 6 months, but I'll let you off. I'll say a year. In the last year, what has not been useful in your house? How many black bags will you fill? Anything that you haven't used in 1 year. Normally, my own practice is 6 months. I regularly go through my stuff to find, okay, what is it that I don't have a need for anymore? So I'm giving you a year. Whatever it is that you haven't used in the last year, how many black bags will you fill? And why is it that you have it there? Why is it that when you see it and you can't put it in the black bag to get rid of it? This is the greed I'm talking about. Because what we are doing is that we're hoarding energies. You know, I don't know if what you're sensing, but whenever I don't have a huge place. I have one room basically, and my wardrobe, such a tiny little place. But that doesn't mean don't have too much. I could also say I have too much, and I could get rid of stuff, I'm sure. But whenever I have a clear out, it's like my thinking changes. The feeling that it's like I can breathe. It's like there is more air. Somehow there's more space in the area where I am. And so I think our new way of has to be, in order to be free from greed, in order to be altruistic, in order to think about how can I support others first, so that in doing so, I can have power. The place of power is not just stuffing my own self. And that's a metaphorically speaking, stuffing myself. I don't mean stuffing yourself with food. I mean stuffing my consciousness, having this consciousness of consuming all the time. There are subtle ways in which we consume. The consumer consciousness is even wanting to see more, to feel more, to hear more, to speak more, to be heard more. All of this consuming consciousness is where I base my internal state of being on the basis of external situations and circumstances, where I end up making external factors that which feeds me inside my own self. Now, today in our early morning lesson, there was a mention about contentment, and we spoke about this in our early morning class. That contentment is not like, okay, I got everything I want, now I'm content. Contentment is a virtue, which means that whatever I have, however much I have enough. And I can make do with what I have, instead of planning what is the next thing that I want, or my attention to be distracted outside of myself all the time. When my attention is distracted outside of myself all the time, then I'm in that consuming mode. Some of us are naturally extroverts by nature. I'm an extrovert. And yet I have an attraction to being introvert. And so introversion conserves my energy. Introversion shows me the beauty of my internal state of being. Introversion allows me to take stock of my own recognition and value for my own self. And so a new way, can I think about others first? We have this expression, you first. Do I always think about myself as to what I need and how much I need, or do I think about other people or others need? And this whole situation in which where we feel so much uncertainty in our world, forget about the world outside, but in our own personal lives, there is this feeling of what is going to happen tomorrow to me, to the point that there is fear inside of what is to come tomorrow. But can I live my life on the basis of the fear of tomorrow? Then I'm eating up my present moment too. So what is a new way of being is where I'm not brooding over my past, where I'm able to say, whatever happened until now, I've learned from it, and I wipe the slate of my mind as clean as I possibly can. So at least consciously, I'm not bringing up the negative experiences of the past. And when things do come up, there are some things that will come up unconsciously, and the influences of the past will also emerge. But at that moment in time, I have to be able to be quiet, go inside myself, separate myself from that past, and really feel the present moment. I think our ability to prepare ourselves for our future lies in our ability to be present in this moment, in this time. Can I really be not thinking about past, not thinking about someone else, not thinking about the future, but really be present? Because, time is actually a cycle. That which is the past was the future, and it was the present. Now it's become the past, and the future is going to become present in no time, and then it's going to become past again. So time is constantly moving. It's never stagnant. And so even the past that's gone by, it's finished, but where does it remain present? It remains inside my own self. And when it is here, I'm the one who's reliving the past and reinforcing the past. But in actual fact, to be able to learn the lessons and move on to such an extent, in such a way, that I'm able to take advantage of the present moment in time. And that the present moment, I know, is helping me create my future. We can be absolutely certain about our future when we use our present in a worthwhile way. Let me use my present moment to be quiet, to be present here. Let me use my present with the conviction and with the understanding that whatever state and whatever it is that I create for myself now, that's what accompanies me in the future. We have this expression in India: you come alone and you go alone. You take nothing with you. The only thing that you take with you is the good feelings, the positive feelings, what you have done to serve others, to heal the hearts of others, to console the hearts of others. That feeling is the feeling that you carry with yourself. And when is it nowadays? Well, for a long time, people are so concerned. There are, astrologists, fortune tellers, palmists, tarot card readers. There are, trance mediums. They're making a huge living. And the reason why they're making a huge living is people are going to them wanting to know what their future is going to be. Why? Because they don't have the conviction themselves that their future is going to be good. So they're looking for affirmations out there to say, don't worry about it, your future is going to be good. But when I know that what I have done, what I have contributed in the lives of others, it's never going to leave me. It is always going to stay with me. So, we're not going to run away with our future, but yet we are using our present in such a way that we know, we have the guarantee that the future is going to be bright and positive. Now, you can't open up Akashic records and books to say, okay, this is what's going to happen on this day. And it's not necessary to do that. The only thing that is necessary is for you to be able to put your hand on your own heart and say, today I did the best I could for myself and the best I could do for others and for someone else. And so what we need to create, what we need to think about, is creating a life of blessings. How much am I receiving blessings from others? And blessings is not like a boon that say, oh, may you live a long life, or may you have sons, or may you have a nice husband, or may you have a nice wife. It's not about that. It's not those kinds of blessings. The blessing that I'm talking about is that when you help someone, or when you console someone in the time of their need, at that time, the consolation that they experience, the peace that they experience in their life in that moment, the blessings, the good feelings, the relief that they receive from you, though that energy is the energy that accompanies you for the rest of your life. And it's the energy that nobody can take away from you. Nobody can take away from you. And so that's why what we're saying is, what we're doing is we're creating a life in which you have absolute conviction that whatever you need, whenever you need it, the way in which you need it, it will come to you. So what I'm saying is that the newness is a life of trust, life of faith. And this faith is in your own self, because you have actually proved to yourself through the quality of your thinking, through the quality of your actions, through the quality of your interactions with others, that there is nothing but positivity and goodness in store for you.
Sister Manda,
Absolute conviction.
that's quite a powerful statement when you say that whenever you need, whatever you need, and the way you need comes to you. Because if I just go back to, I think you mentioned that one of the fear is, how do I conquer the fear of tomorrow? I think that's something which is very much, you see that when you when we all engage with people. So how do you build that trust? And you mentioned about using my presence in a worthwhile manner. You spoke about creating a life of blessings. Could you just expand a little bit, because that's about the fear of tomorrow. I think that's quite that's a very much a common negative feeling amongst people.
Yes, absolutely. So, in a sense, I'm actually present today. Instead of worrying about tomorrow, fearing tomorrow, what am I doing today that's bringing me a feeling of conviction, a feeling of trust, a feeling that today I put my hand on my heart and I did the best I could in all aspects of my life. And it's just that removes the fear about tomorrow, because I know that whatever energies I create, whatever vibration I create, that's what comes back to me. Nothing else come. I just love this idea, this notion of karma, if you like, that when we're performing, the spirit, the human spirit, the soul, since all of you know about the Brahma Kumaris, I'm assuming that you all know about the concept of the soul. If I'm a soul, a living, thinking, conscious, spiritual being, and as such, what I am is spiritual energy, spiritual vibration. And so I am constantly emanating. I'm constantly generating. If you sit in a corner and having aggressive thoughts about someone and you say, oh, but I didn't do anything to them. Not true. Not true. Because your thoughts will have reached that person, even if they didn't see you. Your thoughts of anger, your thoughts of negativity will have reached that person. And that person, when they come in front of you, they will feel the energy. They feel the energy of discrepancy that exists between you and them. So the principle is this, that when you create something, when you generate something, whatever comes back to you through the filter of your own creation. You
Right.
emanate peace. You emanate peace. And even if someone else gives you peacelessness, it can only come through the filter of peace that you've created. It will transform into peace, and it will arrive with you as peace. If somebody says some nasty words to you, but you always say positive words, their nasty words don't affect you. And so what I'm saying is that how aware am I that whatever energy I create today, that's the energy that stays with me tomorrow. And that's what other people will receive from me, but that's what I will feel about my own self. And so I think the awareness that we have to have today is this one awareness of really living inside in a state of introversion. Allow your world to become a pure, sacred space for yourself. Your world is your inner world, pure, sacred, spiritual, benevolent world inside you. And allow nothing, nothing that anything, unless you give permission to something, it can't enter that world. I am responsible for creating that world inside of me and holding that world inside of me. If anything else comes in, it's because I opened the door for it to come in. So this introversion space, and give it so much life that, you become, we say like a tortoise, that a tortoise has its head out and its limbs out when it's walking, and when it doesn't walk anymore, it retreats inside itself. Can I also, that's one way of preserving, that's also a way of preserving our energy. We are drawn to that. We're all attracted to that. But we then get so distracted by things outside of ourselves. So practice that. Practice going inside. Practice being quiet. Practice being silent. Practice giving life to that world. And as you do that, then let your world be the world in which when you come outside in order to serve others, to create a life of blessings, then you're coming from that place. And inside this world, of course, if you come to Brahma Kumari's talk, you will always hear about not just the awareness of the self as a spiritual being, but a relationship with God. The one being is always accompanying me in my journey. Never leaves my side. Never leaves my side. This soft, gentle, loving, unconditional, constant energy of love is always by my side. What will it take for me to tap into that? What will it take for me to stay connected with that? Am I willing to let go of everything else that allows me to stay with that? So for me, I'm not there, but for me, a new way of life is where I spend every moment, every thought, every action I perform in the company of God, of that constant, loving, unconditional, soft, unending energy. That's where I want to be. That's my new life. Nothing else. And whatever that takes, that's what I want. All sorts of things come up, all sorts of things file past you or enter that inner world. Not because you want it, but because you too have some things to settle and lessons to learn. That's why they come. I'm not able to be that in that world yet. I haven't arrived in that new life yet, because all of these things are coming at me because I haven't settled my business yet. I haven't learned my lessons yet. So what will it take? What will it take for me to live my life, a new life, a life of meaning, a life of purpose? This is a language that you hear all the time. But purpose nowadays is not to conquer the world and save this and save that and have this position and this authority and this money. It's not about that anymore. I think at this point in time now, what it is about is how much can I bring the energy of peace, of love, of God's love onto planet Earth? How much can I bring that energy in my interactions with others? When I'm creating that life, I have nothing to worry about for tomorrow, nothing to fear about tomorrow. Tomorrow is at my fingertips, and I can do and have whatever it is that I want. So what will it take for you personally? Allow yourself to come to a place of that recognition in yourself. What is it that I have to do? How is it that I spend my time? At this time, everything is calling us. Our destiny, our fortune, our future, God, time, and the souls of the entire world are calling us. They're calling us to take us, to make us move to the next step so that we can make a difference. We can give to the world what the world needs now. The world doesn't need money. The world doesn't need high political profile and authorities of the world, because they have all of that. And look where it got them. What the world needs now is the power of truth, power of purity, power of peace. Again, not by going out marching and saying, this is right and this is what you must do. There have been lots of all of that. But what is really needed is to be truth, is to be purity. Have no selfish motives. Whatever I do in the name of the spirit, the soul, in the name of fellow human beings, and because I want to bring God in my own life and in the lives of others. So we have to work at a completely different level now. We can't, there was this saying, if you do what you've always done, you will always have what you've always had. Right? If you do what you've always done, you will always have what you've always had. So, talk about a new life. There has to be 180-degree turnaround in how it is that we live our lives. The right way of living, is it that I'm a soul, or is it that I'm a human being? So a new way of living is not that I'm a soul living inside this body, or it's not that I'm a human being who has this soul, but I am the soul living inside this physical body. And that now I have to look through these eyes and bring the energy and the vibration of what I am So the new way of living, it's something that we already know, and you might say, well, that's not new. Well, it is new when you start to live it. It's not new when you haven't lived it. Then you've just known about it. But when you start to live it, then it's a new way. And then watch magic happen around. Watch magic happen for you, and watch magic happen for everyone else around you, and watch magic happen for the world. You know, the other thing I also always remember is that in, again, the scriptures of India, there's the 5 Pandavas and 100 Kauravas. The 100 Kauravas were given the first choice. What do you want? Do you want the armies of the world? You know, the war took place between these two brothers, these two groups of brothers, 5 Pandavas and 100 Kauravas. So Kauravas were given the first option by God. What do you want? You can have whatever you want to fight this war. The Kauravas said, we want armies of the world and weapons of the world. So they were offered either that on one side, the other side was the company of God. The 5 Pandavas said, we want the company of God, the guidance of God. And the Kauravas took the weapons and the armies and everything else. Needless to say who won the war, right? The war was won by the 5 Pandavas because they had the guidance of God. They had the company of God. They had the presence of God by their side. So it's that. So for us to make a shift in the world, to create a new world, who's going to do it? Nobody's going to do it. Who's going to do it? You and me. And so that's the new. That how high is your aspiration for yourself and for the world?
Yeah, I can say on behalf of the group, I think all the 40 odd participants we are the Pandavas. I can vouch for them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. On the side of the pandas. Anyway, I'll
We've
stop
got
here.
lots of messages. I think people have been sending messages to me.
Okay.
Very nice talk, beautiful talk, Sister Manda. And there are also a couple of questions. So one of the question is how we should deal with times when we fall short of our ideals, our values, our ideals. Example, when acting out of greed and then we feel disappointed in ourselves. Is there a practice to help with falling short?
Yeah. You know, the thing is, it's a journey. It's been a long time since we've lost our way. So it's a journey. So the fact that you have the aspiration, fact that you have a goal to do that is actually the first step. And to start moving towards that step, you will find, you will fall back, you will forget, you will make a mistake. But the real victory is in noticing that you did that you fell, you made a mistake, you slipped up. Notice it, own up to it, realize it, and move on. And you will find that each time there will be less and less of a time gap between realizing it and not doing it again. So yes, we will slip up, we will make mistakes, but that's the time when we have to be kind to ourselves, give marks to ourselves for having the aim. And that's when you then go back to yourself, go back to God, go back to your realization, and gather your strength, gather your energy again, and start again. You know, for me, every day is an opportunity to begin again. Every day is an opportunity to begin again. And we have to take that opportunity. We will take that opportunity. And that's why it's important to meditate every day. Take time. See early morning hours as an opportunity to begin again. See the end of the day as an opportunity to finish the day. It's gone. It's finished. I see what happened and I release the day. I release myself from the day and prepare. Know that tomorrow is another chance. And I see, and this is what I really like about my spiritual life. In a truly spiritual life, there isn't a place for guilt. Religions have used guilt to manipulate their people and to abuse their people. But here, there is no place for guilt. Here, there is realization and transformation. So realize and transform, but don't go into the ditch, abyss of guilt, because guilt makes you powerless. Guilt makes you weak, and guilt does not allow you to lift yourself up again. So that's why credit yourself for noticing you slipped up and move on again. And I feel that God doesn't want us to be guilty, but God wants us to realize and change.
Thank you. I hope that answered your question. One of the things, Sister Manda, you mentioned about living a simple life, and you spoke about greed, and the other spectrum you have happiness. Now, one thing which a lot of times people, I think they get a bit confused on, they're unclear is about money, which is quite a hot topic now in terms of what's the right amount of money and so on. And each one might have a formula that I need to have X times my monthly expenditure. That's the money which I would save or hoard or whatever. But that's not greed, right? You're just taking a practical decision that I need to have,
Yeah,
say,
absolutely.
10 times of my monthly expenditure in my bank account or whatever
Yeah.
it is.
It's a really good question. Of course, we have to be sensible about it. You have to be sensible about looking after ourselves, taking care of ourselves, so we don't end up in the streets. But at the same time, greed, I think we all understand when we are thinking far beyond our needs, where, we are driven and it's never enough. Physically, what I do is never enough. Physically, what I have is never enough. When I want the next best thing, when I want the next latest iPad that's out, or my next phone, or my next car, or a bigger house, or better than the neighbor, this is greed. So
Right.
that's what we're defining as greed. Making plans to take care of yourself is essential. You can't not make plans for that.
Sure.
But when it becomes obsessive, and such people will not even be generous. Such people will not give to others who need, but people who just have enough, they're the ones who have the inspiration. They're the ones who have the big-heartedness to give to others as well, who are in need.
Right. Okay. Thank you. I think that's quite clear, actually.
Okay.
When you say the pace of life has changed a lot, and it is indeed for everyone to say, but same time, you might have people who would say yes. So maybe yes, we had the first lockdown, and now we're talking about the second lockdown. But probably things might get okay by end of Christmas. So what's in it for me to change my way of thinking, or should I just be quiet and just wait and watch until December and then come back to my normal ways of thinking, or what would you tell them?
Well, every scene that happens in life, I feel it comes in front of us to show us something, to teach us something. If after all this, we're going to go back to what we were 6 months ago, what did we learn? How did we empower ourselves? How did we grow? We've got to grow. We've got to grow through those situations that we live, and learn from them, so that next time. Who was it? I was listening to something yesterday. Someone who I know quite well, and he's he's not a businessman, but he works in America, and he's a good friend of mine, and we have open conversation. He lacks nothing in his life. He has everything. And yesterday I was very surprised when he said that this lockdown period has been really difficult for him. There's all the stuff that's been going on in his head. And so what I'm saying is that it's surprising how much all of this has brought up what's inside of us. the discomfort with not having the routine, the discomfort and fear uh, of just having nothing to do even, and the feeling of helplessness and all of that that's come. Surely that's all come to show us that there's something we need to do, so that whenever anything like this ever happens again, we don't find ourselves in the same situation. So I feel that any discomfort that comes my way, any sorrow that comes my way, any pain that comes my way is coming to show me and teach me something about myself, so that I don't find myself in that place again.
It's better to sort of learn now rather than
Mm,
sort of repent later, or
mm. But just to have the power to be happy, to be peaceful, to be at ease, to be in comfort, and to feel okay. To feel that you can sit and remember God. I was doing a talk for the Covent Garden people the other day, and they said to me, "Oh, so what do you do in your free time?" I said, "You know what? I look for free time and I don't think about doing anything and stare at the ceiling." And I check myself to see how long could I keep staring at the ceiling without thinking, I got to do something else. I want to stop thinking about doing something else. That doesn't mean I don't want to do anything. When the time comes and something needs to be done, I'm there. But when there isn't anything, why do I want to think about what am I going to do next?
right. Okay. I think what I'll do is I'll ask. I think we'll keep it open for the audience in case some people have not managed to send a chat message, or if they want to ask a question directly. I think if you want to ask a question, if you can raise your hands, you could raise your hands or wave your hand. Or if you see at the bottom of the Zoom, there's a reaction button. So if you click there, it's going to pop up a few emojis. So maybe you can pick up an emoji of thumbs up, and then I can unmute you. Any questions, or you're all now all set for a new way
Everybody's
of thinking
happy.
from tomorrow?
Everybody's happy.
Okay, then if not, I'll ask you a question, Sister Manda. Okay, we got a question. I think
Even
it's
in face of
stated.
difficult moments, if we step back and observe ourselves, we can see that we are learning from it, and those moments will pass. Just an observation. Yeah, absolutely. Beautiful point. This is such an important thing. The ability to be able to step back and observe, the ability to watch what's happening outside of you as if it's something outside of you and not inside you.
Sister Manda, given that you spent many years with Dadi Janki, a privilege. I think it's a privilege to spend so many years with Dadi Janki. Can I mean, we need a separate session. But if I can ask you, if I can ask you to summarize, or maybe just top 3 teachings of Dadi Janki, which you've imbibed or working on at the moment. I know one you mentioned about in this talk today, that let your mind be such that your mind becomes more informed or becomes conducive to receive signals as to what comes next. That was indeed very powerful.
Mm.
Anything else which you want to share? Because not everyone has the privilege of spending that many years with Dadi Janki as you had.
So many things, actually, so many things. But I think that if I had to choose a few, I suppose one of them, which would be always trust God. Always trust God. And I saw her do this all the time, where she assigned everything that happened to God. Things that worked out, she assigned them to God. Things that didn't work out, she assigned them to God and said, well, it wasn't meant to happen. God didn't want it to happen, so it didn't happen, so that's okay. So that's the other thing. That's something that I'm working on, how to be able to always spend time in that way where God is my constant companion. And those of you who know her saw. And then the third thing, I say, her heart was so big, so generous, so accommodating, so giving, so kind, so merciful. And yet she had this incredible balance of absolute truth. She was not just merciful and big-hearted, uh, without boundaries or without knowing the right way of being that. She was that, um, but also will tell you, I mean, I had the fortune that she pulled my ears and pulled my nose and pulled my little ponytail. If I ever did anything or slipped up or said something, she was ready there to tell me that I had slipped up. So I appreciated her support, her company, her vision, and she held nothing against anyone. She held nothing against anyone. You know, you would spend the most intimate moment with her, then you've gone and she's forgotten. Next time you come in front of her, she meets you with that same vision again. Many, many things, but you know, these are some of the things.
And one thing which I remember a lot, she always said, "Don't think, don't think." What's how did you understand? So when she says, "Don't
Yeah,
think,"
she told me that a lot. She told me that because I think a lot. So she told me not to think all the time. But I think what she meant was that don't think more than you need to think. Don't think about things that are not your business. Don't think about what someone else is doing. Don't think about tomorrow. Don't think about 5 years' time. Don't think about, so, think in the moment. Think only as much as you need to, and in the way that you need to think. Don't think anything extra. Don't think any extra. So it was more about that, because we have the habit of constantly going, 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 going. And that's what she really meant. Just stay present, stay quiet, stay open, stay ready to receive signals from God, from the drama of life as well.
right. Okay, thank you very much. So I think I don't see anyone who've raised their hands. I think what we could do is we could possibly conclude by a meditation.
Sure.
I think what we could perhaps do is we could all say our gratitude and thanks to Sister Manda, because I think once we've done the meditation, we'd rather want to sort of leave in that space, that energy which we've created. So have a very silent departure. So thank you, Sister Manda. Thank you so much. It's been a very powerful, lots of insightful tips, tools, techniques, sharing some insights from Dadi Janki. I picked up many, many points about think less, think powerful, think meaningful. Picked up some tips on learning a simple life, how to be present in the moment. And I'll reiterate what I think what you mentioned, that if you spend your time in a worthwhile manner, the future will present to you whenever what you need, whatever you need, and the way you need it. So yeah, it's about making use of each and every moment, living in the present, and living a life full of blessings. Thank you so much. I think if you can
Thank
just
you for the invitation. Great to meet everyone. Thank you, Surendra Bhai, Kokila Ben, also.
Yes, I think Dev, do you want to unmute yourself, Surendra Bhai?
I think Mandaben, I will appreciate if you can just give very brief introduction of yourself, how you came to Brahma Kumaris, not in length, but we have got still 5 minutes more. You can, before we start meditation, if you can just, so there are so many who are new, they might have seen you first time or listen you first time. So it's better if you can introduce yourself in a way before coming to Brahma Kumaris, and how you came to Brahma Kumaris.
Okay. Well, there was nothing mind-blowing about how I came to Brahma Kumaris, but in fact, I first learned about the Brahma Kumaris when I was 19 years of age. We had some relatives that came from India, and she was going to the Brahma Kumaris, and one day she came to our house and she said, "Oh, Manda, you must done the meditation course that I've been on, so that you learn about it," because she had seen me in her early morning meditation. And I said, no, Kamafoy, I don't want to. I was 19 at the time. So this would have been, 1979. And she came up to our house again a few days later, and she was saying the same thing again. And I said, no, thank you. So my mother did the course, meditation course, and my mother started to basically come straight away. And then I just, for the first year, we all did the course, myself, all my siblings. I have 2 other sisters and a brother. So we all did the meditation course. We said, no, thank you very much. This is not for me. And I didn't go. But by the time, a couple of years later, I just started to think more about life. And I thought I wanted my life to have more meaning and purpose instead of just ordinary life. So I said to my mom, I'll come to your meditation. And that was it, really. I then went. I had this amazing experience of happiness. And until that point, I thought my life was fine. I was 21. No, what do I want? I don't need anything. And I want to, conquer the world kind of attitude as a 21-year-old. And then I had this experience and I realized that this is what I need. But also, actually, when I did the course when I was 19, I had learned about our worlds becoming degraded and the people are going to be suffering and unhappiness. That's one thing that stayed with me. And that the only way to help our world is through God. And that I have to have such a connection with God that I can help people. So it was that inspiration that I thought, our world needs happiness. Our world needs, and I can't, if I don't have what I want to give to the world, I can't give it. So that's when I started to go to the center. I went 1 day a week, and then 2 days a week, and then 3 days a week. And then I went to India, to our headquarters 3 months later. And it was there that I had this amazing experience of God, really, as God being my father, and that this is the life that I wanted. And that was it. Haven't looked back since, I suppose, after that this has been my life. I met Daddy Janki and she kind of went, you. And she went like that. And
Daddy speciality, you.
Yeah, Daddy went, you, over here. And her eyes went off me, I suppose. And so I couldn't escape, even if I wanted to. Not that I wanted to escape, but she was not going to let me escape, ever. So then I moved to the center. Literally a year in 1982, I started to live in the center. So in the beginning, I was working and then living in the center. And a few years later, I started to be in the center full time, from 85 onwards, really, actually. Then I started to be in the center, done some amazing things, learned some amazing things. And, the rest is history, really.
That's it.
In the beginning,
Kokila Ben and Surendra Bhai I've seen ever since 81, since I came. Yep.
You stayed in Tennyson Road in the beginning or in Baba Bhavan?
No, I've always stayed in Tennyson Road, never stayed in Baba Bhavan. I lived in Tennyson Road, went out to work for the first 3 years. And then, then I was in the center. I never lived with Daddy. I never lived with Daddy as such, but Daddy was always there. And then I came to Oxford in 1993 to start the retreat center off. And in fact, I probably worked closely with Daddy after I came to the retreat center, because it was basically Daddy who was overseeing and supporting and guiding and holding. It wasn't anybody else. And so I worked closely with Daddy.
When Daddy told you to just manage the whole retreat center, because you have managed it wonderfully, that great place for all these years.
Well, I had been involved in the construction of Global Cooperation House. I was myself with Ratan Bhai, were the only 2 people. It was the first ever Brahma Kumari's purpose-built building project. It was a design and build contract. So I was working on that, and that took about 2 years. And again, amazing learning. I had no skills of building, construction, architecture, design, nothing. But I learned everything on that project. And then I was also helping set the place up, get the running going. And then really I had got to a point where I thought, I got to do something different now. Something else is pulling me, something else. I've got to branch out and learn something else and do something else. So when the retreat center came up, I knew in my heart that that's where I'm going to be. And that was it. And it took time for everybody else to get onto that I'm going to be there. But in my heart, I knew I'm going to be there. And so Daddy first sent me there for 1 week. And that week is still going on. But, since the retreat center closed down about 2.5 years ago, now I feel my part in the retreat center is over. What my part is, I don't know. But it feels like that chapter is finished now.
Everybody is waiting for retreat center to be open.
Yeah, I know they are. They can wait, but I don't necessarily have to be there. Somebody else can be there.
There'll be some newness there.
Still, your party will be there.
In a different way, it will be there, not in the same way.
Okay, it's now nearly 6:25.
Yeah.
I think
Brief meditation. Let's just have a brief meditation. Yeah, just sit comfortably, relaxed, and hold in your heart and in your mind the presence of God. Know that God's love, God's purity, God's beauty of light is by your side. You are held in God's vision, the highest esteem. And you are also exactly the same. Love, light, beauty, of truth. Sense the energy. Sense the vibration of God, your eternal guide, always ready to catch you, to hold you, to soothe you whenever you need His love.